It was mentioned yesterday, one of the things he said is you have to focus on the wins and just shun out the losses, because as much as you want to learn from the losses, once you're in the server, the losses, they're not going to be helping you too much when it comes down to sheer mentality. You have to focus on just playing for the win. That's what you're there to do. And I think that does kind of resonate quite well to what they were mentioning on the analyst desk. They need to get themselves back on just ground earth. As much as the crowd is all well and good, they can't get themselves too overhyped as well. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, that it's all well and good to be playing with the crowd, but then you can't be playing to the crowd. You have to still play for your team and individually play together as a unit, because otherwise you end up going to be playing a bit all over the place.
Yeah, and while they were worried about that T side, for Flipside, this is where they will be starting. They spoke about counters, which is something I feel like Blade is going to be the prime man to do, counters to that mid-aggression. But in this round, not really too many counters at all. A lot of positional play at the moment to stop any aggression towards Palace. They're not going to allow them to go in that sort of direction. 2 players currently waiting. 2 players also looking like they're edging towards underground, but not really making a dedicated decision just yet, really playing down that time. And, well, maybe going for one of those later round plays, the mini Na'Vi, the Flipside rush could even come in at 30 seconds. But at the moment, we're still just waiting for them to make some sort of move.
So many virtues being highlighted by both of these teams, and one really does stick out: patience. Neither of these teams are going to be facing at all. No aggressive moves to try and force those picks either. It just comes down to when do Flipside want to buy it, and Cloud9 just awaiting that response. And one thing to note is you can see it's going to be automatic towards the top of mid, just shoulder peeking in terms of trying to spot out some information. But even then, Flipside now, they're getting themselves ready to buy it. It's going to be the A site. They're moving a little quicker, which I like, the sped up pace, but they have to land the shots.
Yeah, well, the raid boss is going to have no impact in this round as Skadoodle removes his head. Shara is quickly there to trade, and a lot of damage being done to nothing, but Skadoodle, he's doing all of the work, finds himself 3 kills, even looking for a 4th. He has run out of ammo, but Stewie's there to defend him. This leaves just Shara left. He's found the only kill so far for Flipside. He needs himself 4 more. He doesn't have the bomb. He doesn't have time. He needs to die.
Well, the way you word it like that, it's just pretty damn bleak, but it will happen nonetheless. He's going to fall to his unfortunate death. Well, Stewie's happy about that one, just going to be laughing away. Is that automatic, sorry?
Racist.
That's not racist. That's just, I've not actually been able to watch Automatic too much, unfortunately.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
A tad brutal. I'm quite...
Get him. No, I'm
quite hurt about that.
It is going to be back for the pistols for Flipside. It has himself the Deeg, and already tagged down very low. Must have got a little bit lucky with that one. Doesn't have any armor and survives the scout hit. Not the most common of scenarios. You do have Waylander back with the Deeg and Kevlar, and we saw in the last map, just the Deeg was a force. The Kevlar is almost like saying, okay, now I'm protected as well, guys. You've got to be even more careful. The buy for Cloud9 involves a couple of rifles, so still some security, and the scout alongside the SMGs is a pretty reasonable second round buy.
Yeah, it's something for them to try and work with. Of course, relying on these close-range pistols is somewhat tough. You have to land the shots if you want to pull things off. The Deagles, of course, have been a pretty big part of this series. We were discussing players such as Waylander somehow making frags work, which on paper you'd say, well, they just shouldn't happen. So maybe that would be something for them to play with as well already. Well, did it knock down fairly low. Markelov actually taking a good bit of damage as well, knocked down to 77 HP. The Flipside still living true to their name, just really running that clock right on down, getting down to 45 seconds now. If they can keep up the pressure of going at 35 seconds, I would prefer it. For Stewie, he's already going to kick things off.
Yeah, takes down the injured World Edit. Not going to have any more part of this round. The bomb is building up towards ramp, so that is the main aim, to try and get this bomb down. Markelov will be dropped, and a lot of damage may be done to Stewie, but he will survive as nothing is there to help. Blade spamming away with this Deeg, does manage to connect onto Stewie, and Shara has actually got one himself. 20 seconds left on the clock, though, so they have to be very quick with the way they're going to play this one. The flank from Shara may give them an opportunity here, looking for a little bit more, but there's 12 seconds. It's again coming up to that point where, unless they get that bomb down, they have to die, and you can see the aggression comes out in the end. 2 players dropped at least, but not anything too crazy. And the big thing to mention is the fact that Cloud9 have actually got their first pistol.
I don't even want to talk about that storyline because that's just crazy. I can't actually believe we're at this point in the BO3 series and we're discussing them giving up their first pistol round. It's ridiculous. But still, I think unfortunately for Flipside, they put a bit of emphasis on that previous round, but this time around it's really not worth doing anything at all. Just a sprinkle of P250s, and well, ultimately it should just be a clear-cut money-making round for C9. And you can see that one coming full circle. Automatic and Stewie finding 2 apiece, making use of the close range ability of the SMGs. And well, if they can keep on doing that, that'll be much perfect. Of course, you do see the Famous in play. If it comes across the frag, that's all well and good. But I'd like to see the full frontal assault from the SMGs, just mow them down and make even more money, because economics of Cloud9, that will help them hugely on their CT side.
Yeah, $1,500 made up by Stewie in that round. Not dying, keeping his armor. Nice little bit of value, and nothing is going to hype up his own booth, at least. He doesn't have the crowd behind him too much, but at least he can bring the hype.
He can bring the hype. He's the one-man army for the hype this time around. They don't need anyone else. They're going to sit there and, well, he can scream his lungs off and single-handedly make sure that C9, they know that at least he's behind them. And there are a couple of C9 fans in the crowd, I spot a couple of blue.
And they did, of course, gave a nice cheer. There's a bias, but there's no hate here. Aggression again, Blade! He hits that second headshot, takes down nothing, no trade for you. And, well, nice start to the round already. Skadoodle, he has himself that AWP. They were having a little bit of a bonus here. As you can see, a couple of SMGs were in play. Automatic still with the UMP at the moment. But now we look towards Flipside. They've got lots of utility left to play with. 1 Molotov, but other than that, now we look at Shroud and Aggression.
Just going to be poking around, waiting for the perfect time to strike, but unfortunately he's going to be forced into a response, and that response back off over towards the B site. He's the only man nearby, so going for that is smart. He gets some information to play with, takes a bit of a risk, but now he does fall back, gets to be the anchor player. No one actually there to pressure him even further, as it's actually taking place over towards the ace. Automatic forced out of position, punished by Shara. Skadoo looking to have an impact of his own, will find himself a trade, now looking to go one step further over towards ramp. He will catch Markov out of guard, going for a third. This is ridiculous, but finally Shara bites.
Yeah, Shara, again, stepping up big, but there's Shroud to find one back. Shara is low. He has an opportunity in this one. Kick, couple of flashbangs. Still has his M4, of course, and looking for that kill onto Blade. Risky peek, but does a lot of damage. Now Shroud is actually the lowest player in HP. Flashbang will keep him further back, and this bomb plant is in a decent position, especially for Blade. He can just hold all the way back. Doesn't need to go for anything crazy. Shara, he's not peeking either, and this is just smart decisions at the moment. Flipside again, after plant positions, they have been pretty damn solid.
It's working out in their favor means that we are going to be getting to much less of a one-sided scoreline, and this time around, Flipside trying to bring their way back into this one, which is certainly a good time to do it when you look at this scoreline, because Flipside, they were struggling to get their economy in check on the basis that they were on the kind of losing end every single round. They haven't quite been able to break C9 at all. They have been able to do enough damage to make sure the Skadoodle was low in terms of $2,000 or so to play with. But then Stewie and co, they've got money to play with and invest. That means that he's going to be getting a nice and easy drop and nothing really too much to be speaking about. I do look at this T side and go, they're still investing practically everything they've got, only around $1,500 or so being saved. So they're quite easily broken here as well. So this is a very important round.
Yeah, no, this is a big chance. That's sort of the level of a bonus round. You play that round to try and win it. If you don't, you have another bye to come back and possibly even break the economy. So Flipside, they're not out of the woods just yet. Waylander, arguably on his best weapon. He's playing with the D. I would say he probably prefers to have the rifle in hand. But, you know, he's still been doing some pretty impressive stuff so far. Has a little bit of a surprise factor with that one-shot headshot. Either way, so far, again, they are trying to take over this mid-control. It was something mentioned by the desk and something that Cloud9 definitely trying to counter. You can see their positions very heavy over towards window and around the sort of ladder room and jungle position. 3 players, in fact. And now we look at Automatic. He was so good in this position previously.
Indeed. The one thing that really sticks with me is just Flipside refusing at all charms from C9, because they have tried, bear in mind, to force this. But Flipside still adamantly refusing to change things. There is no even subtle movements in terms of them changing up their timings. Yes, they went to 35 seconds, but still working out in their favor. Shara, he will kick things off, trying to force something on towards nothing. Will that to find another, but is still waiting until this last portion of the round, getting down to 20 seconds before they'll even get the bomb remotely near the site. They're in a huge position. This
gives a big opportunity now. Nothing. He's doing the work. Automatic combined. We're back to an even scenario, but welded it through the corner of the box. There goes Nothing's head. There's nothing in place. And Automatic and Shroud, they have to try and come back into this one. They came close last time. Shroud was in a 1v2 that well, I thought was almost doable for him, but after plants are something of a strong suit for Flipside. Well did it. He's going to tag down automatic, leaving him low, looking for a little bit more and almost baiting the position of Blade, who's just going to be handed a frag. Does get traded out by Shroud, who's going to go very aggressive, even finds the second. Now it's all on one man. Markelov, the time ticking away. And actually, oh, if he'd gone for the defuse there, that's hindsight for you. But Shroud, he's not going to be able to do this. May even be removed as well as Markelov now ends his life.
Unfortunately for Shroud, he thought the player was over towards short, over towards that connector jungle area.
Too many places to check.
It's not enough manpower, unfortunately, in that scenario of a 1 versus 1, and it does lead to that brutal outcome. But still, it's an equal time scoreline. What we mentioned, the economy at the start of this run, it's broken for C9.
All about the money, 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 and they do not have any. So just going to be going with a little bit of an upgrade onto Stewie. You can see the mid-aggression about ready, and well did it. He's going to try and farm some cash. Everybody coming his way. Blade will actually go down in the meantime, so nothing doing damage with the pistol so far. They now fall back and not going to challenge further onto World Edit. So even scenario so far. Stewie, the one player with Kevlar, has actually been lost, so arguably the majority of their economy is gone. But Shroud still has a Deeg, and well, we've seen some pretty deadly players so far. Stewie, not going to forget Waylander in a hurry. But can Shroud step up to the plate, at least drop a couple of players? Because Flipside's economy, not secure by any stretch.
Of course, they haven't quite picked up enough rounds yet to make it by any means remotely secure. They've actually got less money saved up than some of the guys on the C9 side of things. Either way, it's still an equal heading. These 4 rifles should be able to isolate these pistols. Can't knock the fact that one frag has already been found by Nothing, but there as well did it to do the job required. Nothing still doing so much work now with a speed of 50. Really, it shouldn't have been allowed to do much more. That's Skadoodle. He's over towards ladder and going to be peeking from short. Should just be spotted out by Waylander towards the end of things after this post-plant. Still going to be leaving it late, even against these pistols, leaving it late, and that is a trademark thing in itself.
That's just CIS things, I think. I don't think that's Flipside alone. There's plenty of teams that love to leave it late. But they did do a good job of switching up pace on Train. I want to see if they can continue that. In this round, at least Nothing is looking to save this AK, so something for them to play with in the next round. And definitely a good upgrade, no matter what rifle you were going to have, unless, of course, you're Skadoodle with the AWP. So, again, 3 players looking to survive. There is a bit of a cross being held by Skadoodle, so they do have to be a little bit careful going towards ladder room, but he's not going to have any impact. Nothing. I would say it's better for him to just hide here. He could peek out and try for a frag, but it's not worth the loss of that AK, so he's just going to hide behind. 3-all scenario, 3 rounds on the T side now for Flipside without that pistol win. And now we look to see the comeback from Cloud9.
Talking of comebacks, it is the 3-3 scoreline. Of course, we've seen some rounds swing backwards and forwards, 3 apiece on either side and chain succession, which is nothing to knock. C9 are keeping it going, but I'd say they've been on this one for a little while, but it's a bit early to even phrase it as a comeback. It's just them getting to equal heading.
More just after the rounds. Comeback with a bye. But yeah. Same stuff.
The point still stands, and I think overall it does kind of set the tempo of how things are unfolding. As C9, they are in the table with Skadoodle on the open. Skadoodle, he's been an interesting one for me because at times I've wanted to praise him, but there's also been times where I felt like he could have just done a little bit more. At the same time, something can be said about Flipside, but they've been a tad more consistent. It will now be a push starting to be made clear over on towards this A site, but it's just utility being expended, no manpower actually being invested just yet.
Yeah, now we see Blade pounce. First man in, he has support from Palace, 2 players over towards ramp as well. Still looking at the lurker of Markelov to try and get himself back into this and push all the way from behind, but it's Stewie. He finds the first, Skadoodle with the second. This hold looking strong from Cloud9. Well did it. He's going to have to fall back. They didn't dedicate the bomb, so that hasn't been lost. Stewie peeks out aggressively and takes down Blade, and now Shroud, well, he's going to hear the footsteps of Markelov trying to play this sort of lurk roll position. He's not going to be able to do anything, and this is much, much better from Cloud9. They've done exactly what they needed to do with their buy, and well did it. It's whether or not he can actually do anything in this round, and that AWP may be the most valuable thing he can keep.
I think keeping the AWP will be the biggest factor here. His 25 seconds to toy with. So give or take, still about 25 seconds now if you include the timer after rounds will end. And he should be able to get away from this one. You look at where C9 are heading, they don't really, well, they don't seem to make a proactive attempt to go for it. And well, there really isn't much need. I don't think a double up setup right now is appropriate in terms of a bit of a counterplay. So the best thing they've got is keep what they've got intact, because their economy is also by no means stable. $50 and nothing before that money will come on in. So overall, a smart play on both sides of the board, and it's certainly nice to be seeing. I think for Flipside, they had a good game plan. They wanted to go for a bit of an A execute. The problem, they started moving out of A, but they didn't commit. They didn't want to go. If you're going to play this slow style, this slow, almost CIS theme, as you were saying, wait in ramp before you want to push. Don't actually start facing towards the back of side. Don't start facing CT, because you're just going to allow yourself to be forced into 1 versus 1s.
Yeah, and a slow start for Waylander. Yet to get a frag on the board, so definitely want to see him step up. They have gone for a buy around the back of that AWP save. Blade only onto a Tech 9, and well, that's a lot to sort of deal with here. He's going to have to get close and personal again. They have gone for mid presence and left a couple of players to A, one in the form of Markelov over towards Underground. But Automatic is going to be the man they have to try and beat if they're going to go anywhere near that B site. Doesn't look like it at the moment, as A seems to be the favored site.
I think A is a smart call. It certainly suits Flipside's talents currently. Depending on how they want to approach it, I do like the split coming from Connector. This is one of the hardest things to hold off in the game currently, in terms of just the constant pressure being applied. The changing factor could be nothing if he goes aggressive. Playing as passive could find himself being caught out, but he's just playing around the tips of this smoke, and this could be beautiful stuff. The Molotov can allow Markelov to cross around the edges of those flames and catch Stewie completely off guard, but will he be able to stay alive? He could catch nothing as well. This is going to be great stuff, but somehow they just prance around the smoke. They know each other's there.
There's Markelov with the kill. Looking for more. Automatic there again will trade. So that kill, well, it isolated Stewie. That's the big problem. Just being isolated by that smoke. And, well, there's World at it. Nice flick. Going for a little more. Through the wall. Shroud, get out of here. You're done. Skadoodle, all that remains of this CT side, trying to do what he can with this AWP. But there is no hope. And yeah, I want to go back to that point. Nothing being smoked out there was basically like Stewie dead. There was nothing that he was stuck. Smart decision. Skadoodle, he's going to lose his AWP as well. And that's straight back into the hands of Flipside. That second shot, well, both shots from Wild at it, but that second one through the wall, just to know exactly where it would be sitting. Nicely done.
It is no surprise to me at this point that we are going neck and neck for rounds. A 4-4 scoreline. I look at both of these teams. Neither of them have good economies. It's almost shaky.
Oh, you're going to hide? Goodbye, Shroud.
Flipside, they will, of course, manage to, off the back of things, squeeze out a buy nonetheless with the AWP intact. C9, you mentioned Shroud. Let's see if he can do some Shroud magic with the Scout in play. He's going to be trying to use that mobility and, well, just Shroud things, I think, is the most just way to describe it. Is Automatic already going to be on the receiving end of some damage?
Yeah, Automatic already low on HP. Slower pushes now from Flipside. They don't want to get caught out by any of these pistols early on, so just trying to do whatever they can to find some extra damage. Shroud is going to get tagged a little bit, and now going for a slightly off-angle jump scout. A bit further back and spray through. Not going to connect onto anyone just yet. Minute left on the clock, and well, that's basically double what Flipside will need, maybe even triple. They really don't play with much time at all. They just sort of feel out the map for the majority of it. Now they're going to be throwing out some nades, just clearing out positions. This is smart stuff from Flipside. Haven't managed to take anyone down just yet, and they do still have to be careful. There's always a risk with these Cloud9 players. We know that they can hit shots no matter what is in their hand. And well, we're looking at Shroud at the moment, going for the tags at least. A tag is just as valuable when you have pistol players, but he's not connecting. Waylander already pushing in. Skadoodle on nothing, though. They will connect, and that's going to be nice work from them. Nothing with another. This is starting to get a little bit scary now. 2 players remaining. They're having to continue this push. Nothing. He's found himself 3 in this round. This leaves it down to Blade. He's using trigger control to do his best. He's found himself a second. It's down to Shroud, and he'll hit the shot. But that is not a round Cloud9 should have won. And that's one of the big problems of when they don't find a kill. They didn't know where anybody was. They were all on B.
Surprise? That was... C9, as you say, should have got nowhere near that round. And that's one of the crucial mistakes, something the desk certainly were highlighting as well, is that Flipside, they make some great plays and they're a great team, but at times they have just made these simple but fatal mistakes that have caught them completely off guard, and we just broke them at the most simplest of times. And well, it's almost apt to describe that now, because Flipside, they are broken. There is nothing they can bring to the table in this round. It's going to be a flat-out eco, and it completely breaks the rhythm they had going. It's just devastating to see. Now C9, they've got themselves to 5. They should be able to get into 6th unless Flipside can return the fader with these pistols. But that was honestly heartbreaking.
Yeah, double up setup now in play for Cloud9. Nothing, not going to allow Wilded to return the favor. It gets 3 kills in the last round, so really massive impact. And I think he may even be top of the board. If I'm correct, he's 9-4 at the moment, so definitely having some impact across the board. Shroud ready and waiting with his AK in hand. No scout this time, and well, this is just going to be a firing gallery. Skadoodle actually steals one away, but that's nice, easy frags coming in for Shroud. Not going to have any problem with that aggression. Waylander, no deagle this time, just the Glock, and he has to try his best to, well, maybe do some damage. I don't think he's going to get a kill here. Just to run down here, how on earth is there a way that he gets a kill?
I don't think there is possibility. He will upgrade himself, so this could prove to be
now he's got a
somewhat
PG-50.
interesting. He still shouldn't be able to find the frag, so Skadoodle holding this angle, wrapped him from behind by Stewie. And he is going to be the deciding factor in that round. As now Cloud9, they've broken away from this backwards and forwards trend. They've got themselves 2 rounds chained together. And now all we have to say to Flipside is, will they support this and stand idly by and let Cloud9 start to chain things together, or are we going to see Flipside force it back to 5-6 and then from there bring us to our healthily contended matchup? As the one thing for sure is they will be buying in this round, putting everything they've got into this game, and it's going to be 2 Galils, 3 AK-47s, utility looking sparse on a couple of players, but thankfully Markelov and World at it will be the 2 Titan buying S players who will be able to support them with a full buy.
Yeah, this is going to mean that Flipside, they don't quite have that long-range avenue, but they are going to try and take mid anyway. Smokes used. They have been relatively good at this so far, but now they have 2 AWPs to deal with. Skadoodle has rotated back towards the A, so it does leave Automatic holding the cross onto short, and oh, he has been reasonable so far. Definitely was the best player when they were playing against CyberZen, although Stewie definitely had a claim to that very title, but huge plays coming out onto short from him, and clear confidence was a factor.
They are just going to be biding their time, and really is more than expected at this point. C9 not quite going to be responding to any pressures or pokes just yet. Looking to see how they actually decide to approach this round with a double setup, because of course they're going to know if they have a good read, bear in mind. The flip side economy is somewhat shaky, and they're going to have either a mixed bag of SMGs or be able to bring the Galils to the table. So they should have a rough idea, so they could go for a bit of an acute play. Interesting to see if Nothing is going to be looking towards window and always predicting to be a bit of a hold here, which he's actually going to be rotating around, but he is holding the angle, which this could be beautiful stuff if and when Flipside do decide to buy it. Blue now going aggressive towards connector. Skadoodle there over towards CT, looking to do some work of his own. Shara will kick things off, but there is Skadoodle, there is Stewie, starting to wake up. Automatic and Stewie going to find another apiece. Flipside have crumbled.
Yeah, again, that A-site crossfire works wonders. No hope there for Flipside to get into the site, and yeah, that was really nice stuff there. They get the rotations in fast. Nearly every player gets themselves a kill, and Skadoodle's so quick to trade every kill that comes in using that AWP, so much better there. I do have to say, still a chance for Flipside to get a decent score on this half. It's looking like we will have an 8-4 scenario, but if they can get themselves rolling after that and, well, moving on to the CT side in terms of momentum base, that could actually favor them, especially if they get their 5th of 6 pistols.
The one thing that worries me is Flipside have always been very, very strong in terms of keeping their T-sides together and finding themselves and just grinding out rounds. So if they can keep themselves in this one, no matter the outcome of this one, it comes down to that next buy round they can bring to the table. I'm not going to be so worried if they can play for 5 or even 6. But it depends on how things swing.
Yeah, already in this round it is just another anti-eco round. We have seen one of these work out for Cloud9, but it's a lot more difficult to actually make them work on the T side. You almost have to rush somewhere and just get a little bit lucky, or hope that the CT side makes some sort of mistake, because other than that, I suppose most anti-ego wins are mistakes, but that's not the point. Either way, Automatic will take that shot straight through the wall. Shroud again, well, his fragging statistics are being lowered by these AWPs, as he seems to be offered free frags, and they're like, no, I want this one. And there's Nothing and Stewie combining again. and they clean up this round. So yeah, Cloud9 back into a dominating position in terms of economy. 12,000 on Skadoo, 10,000 on Shroud, 10,000 on Stewie as well. Lowest they have is 4,900 on nothing. So now to break them is nigh on impossible, but we are back in with a buy for Flipside. They have the AWP onto World Edit, which has definitely been a factor on Train. He needs to come up big again because they're going to need him at this stage.
Of course. Looking to see what World Edit can bring to the table in terms of just overall pressure across the map. C9, they're just also not going to be changing anything. They're spread out, looking for the information, but at the same time, it's nothing too crazy. I'm actually kind of liking this jump spot from nothing because it doesn't overface him, but at the same time, it means that he will get the information and then gets to go for the safer peek and has a much higher chance of winning that gunfight based on the information he has in the utility he'll be able to use from that position, as well as being able to support ramp, something we can see him doing, just lobbing those smokes over, aiding Stewie in that crossfire, which is just huge positional play coming in from the CT side. Of course, Flipside, their end goal currently feels like it's going to be to hit towards the A site, with Shara putting some pressure over towards mid, aided by his teammate climbing in towards underpass, but then they have to bite at the perfect time, and at this point it feels like they've adjusted. They know that mid is going to be a little hard to take on his own, so not only is there the underpass help, but there's another player to join him, who of course be World Edit, now backed up.
Yeah, now we wait for Blade. He normally is the first player in. 3 players towards mid could mean that Automatic is going to have a field day if he's ready and waiting. They're actually going to go aggressive. Shara trying to force him back into position. They'll take over ladder room. This will give a huge sound cue to Nothing, who goes spraying through and actually finds it with a trailing shot, meaning that already they have the first kill. Time is beginning to tick away. Stewie, he's going aggressive now. He's actually looking to possibly find control of the bomb, but it doesn't matter if every frag goes back the other way. Waylander with 2 big kills. Mentioned him being at the bottom of the board. He's now started things off rolling. He comes up big. The bomb's planted with seconds to spare, and considering how that round was going, I honestly thought Cloud9 would take it, but big plays from Markelov and Waylander leave Shroud in a 1 versus 3. I don't think this is happening.
It's not going to be happening. It's the same narrative. When Flipside, they pull off a round, they do it in a huge manner, and as we see there, the thing that really helped them was the fact that without utility, without any of that coming into play, it was purely down to just rifles and firepower. They just peaked the angles, they went aggressive, and it worked out in their favor. They hit every single shot towards the end and were able to come up trumps for their team, which is pretty big in terms of the scoreline and pretty big in terms of their economy, because it is almost a bit of a band-aid just being applied, keeping them in this half with a almost respectable, because if they can get to 6, Cloud9 are going to be starting to take some blows when it comes to their economy. Nothing may even struggle to get something up in the next round depending on this outcome.
And now World Edit will be pushed back a little bit. I do want to stress the fact that in that round, they switched up the setup they were using almost the whole game versus Vici, which was the setup they have sort of now, where they have 2 players very, very far back. It was actually Stewie playing very aggressive in the last round, and it worked initially, but then he gets caught out towards the end. And if he'd actually gone further aggressive, I know this is like literal hindsight, which doesn't help too much.
Sometimes it's worthy, though.
But if he had gone further aggressive, he could have caught the bomb, and that would have been a completely different round altogether. In this one, though, minute left. Shara with no utility, but the rest of the T's are stacked with stuff. Stacked with stuff.
As you can see right now, it's almost this kind of dynamic duo effect. We've got 2 players over towards B, bunched up. Now I'm going to be split, literally just as I mentioned, that Blade will split off and head towards underpass, going to aid mid. But still, the initial rounds are certainly just almost budding up, going into things, making sure they always have an ability to have a player nearby to trade, as well as always have someone to be able to get to any point of the map at any moment, which is allowing for extremely quick changes of heart and overall some quick reflexes coming in from Flipside, as now smokes look like they're going to begin to pop over towards A. A bit of pressure being put towards Connector. Nothing going to be looking to hold things off as he will be going for a peek.
It has to be B. There's just no time. But they're going to force
I didn't even notice the position of the bomb. They have no choice.
It has to be B. They have 10 seconds left to get onto the site, and they need to get rid of Shroud. And they've left this one too late. This is way too late to actually go for this challenge. Automatic won the life, and that was, I'm not sure what happened there, if they were just waiting too long for the time, but this is the curse of these sort of teams. If it goes wrong, it goes catastrophically wrong. And they were trying to run out of apartments with, what, 10, 12 seconds left. Blade, he needed 100% to get that kill, otherwise they lost the round. He didn't get it. Shroud does his job. Then everything falls apart.
The fake really didn't do anything either. The pressure towards Connector, it didn't really have an effect. And it actually felt like one of the reasons I even zoned away from the time was it felt like, oh, they're definitely going to be setting up for this A push. The smokes and such are all lined up. but then they just went for this change of heart. But the problem was, we mentioned just how quick they were able to pull it off in the past. That time around, going for that with 20, 30 seconds left, ridiculous stuff. And, well, the Band-Aid swiftly ripped off. Tech9 and Deagle and Markelov and World did it. They have managed to get 3 rifles up, albeit it's just like a little in the hands of Blade, but it is a tool set they can make use in terms of pulling it up to a 9-6, providing they can find the opening kill. My concern, if they lose that opening kill, Cloud9 should simply put, just trade it down, force them out of this one, and get themselves to 10.
Yeah, wouldn't be a bad half overall. Not for either team, I don't think. If Flipside then continue their pistol train, it wouldn't be too much of a problem on their CT side. There were questions asked of their T side, and they haven't been bad, to be fair to them. It's just a couple of rounds now that they could have had. That's the big thing. They could have had, and this could have been much, much closer already. In this round, they are struggling again with economy, sort of the story of their half. Double AWP's back, this time with Stewie and not automatic. Already, they are going a little bit faster. It seems to be the reactive sort of style where, okay, it didn't work last time. Automatic now takes a kill, finds a second as well. There's Blade down and out. Deagle from Markelov is going to trade one back, so there's hope, but nothing holding the cross on the bomb. This leaves 30 seconds for the remaining 2 players who are stuck out on A with nothing to do. Skadoodle ending this round, and, well, it seems like I'm not screaming too much about Cloud9, but a lot of it is the fact that their rounds are so dominating and just sheer team play across the board.
Well, in terms of wanting to scream about Cloud9, it's kind of hard to scream about individual players, because what it is they're all playing off the same hymn sheet. They're doing the exact thing that they're kind of caller in terms of Stewie in this regard wants them to kind of play. And the rounds they do pick up, very decisive. By no means off the cuff and almost random, as some people may describe. And Flipside, they go for the more still kind of set plays. The problem with them is not only are they biting too late, they're going for a couple of plays expecting C9 to respond. When C9 then don't respond, Flipside are left going, well, why didn't they respond? Like, what do we do now? Where do we head?
Well, it's like the round where they made the mistake. They attacked with 20 seconds left, but it was one player getting a frag on connector. There wasn't really anything else to that fake. So what it came down to a lot of the time was, okay, do they bite? And you're not going to, if you have 5 players left, or 4 players even, you're not going to bite with all of your players. They left Shroud, which was the right thing to do. Automatic wasn't even too far away, I don't think, because he came back in for the rotation. And it just meant that they relied so much on their fake working that when it didn't, they got screwed. However, they're going on to the favored side of the map. The 10-5 is in no stretch too far gone. It's not a bad half for either side. It does rely quite heavily on how this pistol goes. They haven't been bad at them so far, winning 4 or 5. But if these are the 2 that Cloud9 win, I wouldn't be surprised if they were to take this over the line.
It certainly is a worrying prospect in terms of Cloud9's game plan going into this one. It's still actually going to be somewhat different in comparison to what we've seen so far. Actually, only 3 sets of Kevlar, nothing on the utility. Skadoodle on the utility, but it's very big on these flashbangs, as they're all going to be popping off at the counterplays. Also, forcing them to slow down, but they're still just gambling out on this site. No one is going to be holding them back.
Shroud finds 2, make that a 3rd for nothing. And this pistol looks all but done as Stewie finds another. This is a good way to start for Cloud9. They are getting closer and closer to making their way through to what would be the semi-final. So big stuff for them. Haven't seen them in that far a position, not at least at a European tournament anyway, for quite a while. And now we look on Markelov, finds 1. This is extra money still. He could buy something extra in the next round in the Force, so any sort of kills he can get is very valuable. If he keeps the Kevlar, even more so. He's just going to be tapping away, and eventually they're going to peek him all at once. Smart stuff from Cloud9. 11-5 up, winning both pistols this time, and you can see the difference just via the scoreline.
It certainly is reflective, and that is why we're already seeing the investment coming from Flipside. Wayland are going to bite all the way down, investing in some Kevlar. Markelov soon to follow suit. I'm expecting the last $500 or so to go towards utility. Shah are now going to be joining the club of Kevlar. We'll see 1 or 2 players decide to go for the save, which is the smart call in terms of if this goes wrong, we can work with something. But overall, Flipside, they're still gunning to make this round work.
Yeah, this is a hell of a long way back to go. They have got the Deegs on Waylander and Markelov, and actually Blade as well. I'm really hoping Waylander will step up, because that's the big difference. I don't think anybody has particularly gone off for Flipside, whereas in the last map, everybody was going off. Everybody was playing those clutches, and I am looking towards the map in a way. I feel like it worked better for their style of play. It may not have worked against FaZe, but versus Cloud9, they didn't look as settled, whereas Cloud9 on this map, they look very comfortable in all the positions they're playing. They had a couple of mistakes made, but were quickly rectified and actually fell back into the standard play they had versus Cybers. An automatic so quick on the trigger there takes Markelov down. Doesn't take any damage back in return.
So far, so good for C9. They're going to be looking to still just play this isolation card, force them into these 1v1s, outplay them with the longer range, which is just expected from these rifles. There's nothing. Going to be making some money with the UMP. Stewie following up with a second on towards Waylander as well. Dara, he's going to be looking to do something. Only manages to find one, and the problem here is the quick trades just mean that it's just not quite going to happen. Well, did it now? The one player didn't really want to invest.
Oh, I thought that was checked there. Stewie flicking away a little bit too quickly. Well, that it has managed to rifle for a second or so, and that's going to be that. 3 players surviving for Cloud9, 12-5 up, very far ahead at this stage. And of course, the next round is going to be an eco coming out from Flipside, other than, of course, a magical Zeus coming out.
The interesting factor about that corner being checked, and I was discussing this with Launders yesterday, and about how actually common it is to see players do it. When you check a corner, sometimes you just kind of gloss your crosshair, gloss your screen over that sort of area, but you don't actually pre-aim it. And that means you can get easily caught off guard, and if someone is there, you have to flick backwards, which is kind of what we saw. It'd be interesting to see if that's 100% accurate. We didn't quite get to see it from the correct perspective. In terms of this round, there really isn't much to say. It should just be a perilous bloodbath coming in from Flipside, who can't really have too much of an impact. And I don't think they were kind of thinking they could either. It's maybe about finding 1 or 2 frags. But Stewie, he just wants to make himself some money.
Yeah, and they're very good at these anti-eco rounds. I think Cloud9 have been much, much better at doing it than Flipside. In terms of Wild Edit finding another kill, this is additional money that can be added up if he is going to go for that AWP Meg Edit to Kevlar, but automatic will end him. Waylander still just waiting around. It doesn't really matter whether he dies or not in this sort of circumstance. Doesn't have too much to save other than a $200 Zeus, which wouldn't earn him any cash anyway, even if he gets the kill, so not too much of value behind that. Cloud9 will get themselves up to 13, 3 rounds away, and in fact, Waylander will even die to the bomb.
So close. Just Cloud9, they are not holding back anything at all. All they need now is just a couple more rounds glued together to make this one work. Of course, in terms of by their stable, I was kind of interested to see if they would decide to go and upgrade those SMGs. The Skadoodle and Shroud, they're confident. They're going to be keeping them in play. Flipside, on the other hand, they're putting in every penny they've got. It's going to be a set of 4 rifles. In fact, the AWP in the hands of World, looking to see if he can land a couple of shots. But it's very concerning because, Tom, they're at 5 rounds. We're in the 19th round. Yeah, potentially all about to be over.
This is a long, long way to go back. Shara will be taken down by the SMG of Shroud. Markelovi's got to go big here. Finds the first, looking for a second, finds it as well, drops the bomb. Not quite going to get the third, though, as Skadoodle bounces back, but World Edit is there to return once more. Much closer round already coming out. The SMGs have been removed. And now we look at the positional play from Flipside. Of course, they have 40 seconds, or 30, I suppose, to play with. They need to get that defused, and they don't have a kit. Blade already making his way around to short. One player currently up in apartments, ready and waiting. Nothing going to go for the spray. Does manage to connect, but takes a dink back in return. Waylander completely blind as Stewie takes down World Edit. There goes the AWP. Blade manages to grab one, but they do have to start getting on this defuse. They don't have a huge amount of time to play with. Stewie's getting burnt alive, and do they have enough time to actually defuse this bomb? I'm not so sure they do. Blade is going to be holding this one down, and well, now he just has to run for the hills. That's going to be another round on the board for Cloud9. They make it work in their bonus round. Now they're going to be coming back up, and I'm pretty sure Blade dies as well.
The only player walking away from that one standing will be Waylander. Blade, as you say, he did fall. At this point, you can even see the peril on Flipside. They know that things are getting dangerously close, and every single frag at this point will count. It's 14-5 is where we find ourselves. The 20th round, ever so close to crowning off the semi-finalist. Cloud9 going to be kicking things off in the exact way required to take it there. It's going to be Skadoodle on towards World Edit. Trade will come in from Blade, still arching back on towards short. Will be Markov, but there is automatic, popping off again, finding himself the trade back.
Ballsy play from Skadoodle, runs all the way in, gets taken down in the end, so back to that 3 versus 3. Looking at Stewie at the moment, still sneaking around that sort of ramp area. the rotation from Shara is going to be very, very slow if they do make their way onto this site. But with 1 minute 20 to play with, there's no real need. This was a very aggressive start to the round. You have to remember, that's already 4 players lost, and we're still only about 45 seconds into the round. So very heavy aggression, the speed up from Cloud9, not something that we saw too much. I do think that's where Flipside may have let themselves down a little bit. They haven't changed too much. They've gone very slow.
I do think this scenario actually favors them, though, on one factor alone. The push is coming towards B. That's lots of information for them to play with. It basically cements the fact that an A site or mid push is going to be happening, which is why they have 2 men there to help out. Of course, Blade looking to have an impact in terms of this jungle play, trying to hold off this connector push, which you should be able to find at least 1 frag here. That's the goal, but Shroud already going to be cutting him down. Waylander forced out of position, Shroud finding a second, and at this point, their advantage, it's crumbling. Shara there to take down Automatic, but he's in a 1 versus 2. They're double peeking him, which is exactly what they need to do in that sort of scenario. And, well, it's just excellent play coming in from Cloud9. And, well, the economy of Flipside will look at it and go 3,700 at max. 3,850 if you want to be precise on Blade. But it's shaky stuff, and now all is to play for. 5 to 15.
Yeah, Shroud definitely looking back in this game was a little bit absent on train. I think a lot of the players were, but in that round alone, getting 3 frags, convincingly ending that. It was a 3 versus 3 and ended up as a Shroud versus none as he kills everyone, and his teammates do survive as well, but they were just sort of passengers along for the ride. Either way, we are back with a bye for Flipside. This is their last chance to save something for this game. If not, they are out of the tournament. Quarterfinals is probably more than most would have expected. A map here versus Cloud9, even quite impressive in itself, considering how they've achieved in a lot of the rest of the tournament and their loss streak overall. But they're not going to want to go home just yet. 10 rounds is what they need to get back into this. It's a hell of an ask, a hell of a task, but hopefully they will get a little bit of support along the way. Well did it. He finds the ding, starting things off nicely. Waylander spray down. Shroud already entering Stewie as well. Shroud just going absolutely massive again in this round, looking to end this game where it stands. Automatic and Shroud, they have been tagged low. Markolov and Shara, they've got a lot to do. 50 seconds to play with here for the T side. They're going much, much faster than Flipside ever did, and that bomb is now planted. As said, a lot of players are low, a hell of a lot to be done, but Skadoodle, he's already looking to end this, and there's Stewie again. They combine a convincing win on Mirage.
They're going to be very happy about that one. Not sure I can hear myself think. The stage is so, well, one hell of a stage.
That was hella loud.
That was certainly loud indeed. As we are going to be getting ourselves ready to head to an interview on the stage very, very soon. But in the meantime, what is there to say? That was one hell of a series.
Well, yeah, it was a really great second map actually coming out from Flipside, but they weren't able to continue it over. Their style sort of fell back. The players who just exploded on train seemed to just fall back down to earth. Waylander definitely wasn't there. Shara wasn't in the same sort of crazy. But yeah, it is looking like we're going to the interview. Take it away, Stefan.
Right now we have to talk in English because you have a lot of English-speaking fans, and it was so nice. And maybe you should dance, maybe not. Once again, Jordan, congratulations, you and your team. It was powerful. It was interesting. What can you say right now about this?
I can't touch it, gotta respect it, gotta fight for it. We're here to play.
Okay, what can you say about the teams that live right now in the tournament, and maybe you prefer to meet some dedicated team? What team you prefer to meet on your way? Next team, who's left? You don't know?
I don't even know who's in the tournament still. I thought the best teams are out. I don't know, maybe Astralis, play Nip. I just want a good match.
So, as I understand, you don't care really who against playing with.
Well, I mean, we seem to play well against Astralis. They're still in it, right? So that would probably be a good matchup for us. Other than that, we got to prove ourselves. So every challenge is multiple kind of factors to it for us. If we can beat more teams, the more respect that we can instill in our name and whatnot. So just want to play good.
It's very nice to hear it. Okay, what about responsibility? Right now, you're only one team from US, and you like now representing all of Northern American scene. What can you say about this fact?
I mean, we're obviously proud to be here. We're going to play our best. There's a lot of skilled players from the US that, unfortunately they couldn't attend. Optic knocked us out in the qualifier. They might be a tough team if they keep working hard. I mean, they are. They play well. So we're just happy to be here and trying to represent the US well.
Okay, you can say something to this amazing crowd.
Spicy ba.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, good luck. Okay, guys, after a short break, we will come back to you.
Gaming Bets, online betting for every esports fan. Dota 2 and Hearthstone, CSGO and Overwatch, StarCraft 2, the choice is yours. Express bets for multiple matches or live bets on the game you are watching right now. Know your way around Dota 2, make a prediction for picks and bans. Playing CSGO, guess the number of rounds in a certain match. Daily quests for all participants and all the best choice of payment systems. More than 600,000 users have already made their bets on the spectacular matches since 2011. EGB.com. You know for sure who's gonna win.
Getting tired of playing with the usual skins, but don't have enough money to buy a new one? Get rich fast with CSGoFast.com. CSGoFast. It's a strong chance of winning in every game. Several rooms with different game modes. Daily, more than 1,000 games, 5,000 players, and 25,000 skins at stake. You don't need much in order to sweep the board.
Dota 2 and Hearthstone, CSGO and StarCraft 2, the largest contests in the history of esports among the national teams. World Electronic Sports Games, the World Championship with the total prize pool of $4.5 million US. Registration for Europe and CIS regions is open. The finals will be held from October 6 to 9 in Kiev, Ukraine. Win your slot in the finals of the World Championship. Register right now.
The blue and white flag flies